You are looking at a permanent defect in a $400 sheet of glass. To you, it is the front camera. To a Samsung display engineer, it is a multi-billion-dollar compromise between the laws of physics and our obsession with vanity. That tiny black circle floating in your screen is not a feature, it is a scar. A monument to the moment the smartphone industry declared war on the bezel and realized it had nowhere else to put the camera. The war on bezels started with a tyrannical demand. The screen must swallow the entire face of the phone. But this created an immediate crisis. A phone without a forehead is a phone without a home for the front camera. Engineers had spent a decade perfecting that tiny lens. In the pursuit of a seamless black mirror, they had rendered it homeless. The component was not optional. The bezel was. Something had to give. The first solution was brutally honest. Engineers carved a chunk out of the top of the screen and called it a notch. This black peninsula housed the camera and sensors, connected to the bezel like a life raft. It was structurally simple. The display remained a single, unbroken sheet of glass around it. But to the human eye, it was a wound, a permanent bite mark in a $400 canvas. Users tolerated it because the alternative was a thicker phone. But here is the problem. The notch consumed enormous screen real estate, an entire rectangular section at the top, dead and black, just to house a 5mm lens. That is where the hole punch came in. Creating a hole in a living screen is not like drilling through paper. It is neurosurgery on a sheet of glass. Samsung Display uses a laser to vaporize a precise circle through the OLED panel without destroying the millions of surrounding transistors. The cut must be perfect, 1 micron too wide, and the entire panel fails. The real miracle is what happens next. The exposed edge of the hole is a mortal wound. Oxygen and moisture would seep in and rot the screen from the inside out, pixel by pixel, like a necrotic infection spreading across a $400 sheet of glass. The entire cutout must be instantly sealed with a hermetic encapsulation process. This ring is not a design choice, it is a medical-grade seal. Samsung trademarked this seal, the Iris Ring, and had it certified by UL, a global safety firm, for having the lowest color deviation in the industry. They turned a mortal engineering wound into a branded feature you never notice. The hole punch solved the screen real estate problem. It was smaller, cleaner, less intrusive than the notch. But here is the problem. Your phone screen does not see a circle. The software driving that display sees a rectangle. Every pixel the circular cutout touches is rendered unusable, blocked off in a perfect invisible box. This is why your notification icons are always crammed to the right. This is why the clock sits awkwardly off-center. The hole is a circle, but its digital footprint is a rigid, rectangular dead zone that consumes far more of your status bar than the black dot ever reveals. Faced with this geometric nightmare, the world of smartphone design split into two warring factions. The first faction, led by Apple, chose to embrace the hole. They did not try to hide it. They built a stage for it. With the iPhone 14 Pro, Apple took the pill-shaped cutout and wrapped an entire software personality around it. They called it the Dynamic Island. It was not a defect. It was a feature, an $800 billion magic trick. The second faction, led by Android manufacturers, chose the opposite path. They did not want to build a stage for the defect. They wanted to make it vanish. Engineers at Samsung and others began a relentless campaign of miniaturization. The goal was to shrink the physical hole until it became so small that your brain simply edited it out of existence. A recent leak suggests Samsung has now achieved a hole punch measuring just 2.5 millimeters in diameter. That is a 32% reduction from the previous generation. The scar is healing, but here is the problem. No matter how small you make the hole, it is still a hole, a visible defect, a compromise. That is where the third solution came in. Engineers at ZTE, Xiaomi, and Samsung began working on the ultimate answer, an under-display camera, a lens hidden completely beneath the screen pixels. No hole, no notch, no scar. The promise was intoxicating. a perfect, unbroken sheet of glass that could still take a selfie. In 2020, ZTE shipped the first phone with this technology, the Axon 25G. The future had arrived. The reviews came back. The camera was looking at the world through a screen door. The photos were a hazy, soft-focus ghost of reality, plagued by lens flare and a complete loss of detail. Samsung's own engineers admitted the goal was to one day match the image quality of a simple hole punch. It was a humbling admission from a trillion-dollar company. The perfect screen was a functional failure. But what about future iterations? What if they just needed more time, better algorithms, improved sensor technology? They tried. For 3 years, every major manufacturer poured resources into under-display cameras. The results never improved beyond mediocre. The problem was not engineering effort. It was physics. You cannot put a camera behind a screen and expect it to capture light the same way an unobstructed lens does. The screen pixels, no matter how transparent, scatter and diffuse incoming light. The image degrades. Always. So they did the unthinkable. They retreated. The retreat was not a defeat. It was a revelation. Samsung's engineers had chased the utopian dream of a perfect, unblemished screen and collided with the immovable wall of physics. The hole punch, the tiny defect you see every day, was not the budget option. It was the superior technology. It was the compromise that delivered a sharp, clear image of your face, while the under-display camera delivered a hazy ghost. The hole punch is not a bug waiting to be fixed. It is the final, mature form of a necessary compromise. A tiny 2.5mm monument to the moment the industry realized that a perfect screen is useless if the selfie camera turns your face into a watercolor ghost. The war on bezels created a homeless camera. The notch gave it a crude shelter. The hole punch gave it a tiny laser-cut home sealed against decay. The utopian future tried to make it invisible and failed. The retreat back to the hole was not a defeat. It was an admission that physics still wins.